Well, I did buzz through this game, and I think Green Bay made a big statement because when you saw they were going to get Jair back, that was going to be a big deal for the secondary. They're coming home. Jordan Love's been healthy a couple weeks now, and I think when they're at their best, they're scary. And when they're at their best at home, I can imagine this team being a very scary team. I think all these teams' physicality lends to like when it gets cold later in the season, when the football games mean more, when the run game is important. I don't care if Detroit doesn't play outside. When they go play somebody in their home stadium, it's 30 degrees. You think guys want to tackle David Montgomery?
Oh.
When somebody goes to Soldier Field to play that defense. When Minnesota's playing you late in the season and the pressure's on and they're rotating safeties and you don't know when anything's coming from and they're physical and they're hitting you in the mouth, like these teams are built for December, all four of these teams. And I think Green Bay, as much as any of them, because they mix in the explosives as good as anybody. Nolan, I told you to look up explosives.
Yeah. Yeah, yesterday they had 11 explosives, 6 run, 5 pass. Last week, that's an uptick from last week. They had 8 with a 4-4 split against the Rams. On the season, they're second in the league behind Baltimore with 32 explosive rushes and tied for 6th with 36 explosive passes.
Dude, they will gash you in the run game with Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
And they got guys up front who can block. Like early in that game, they're moving people.
Yep.
And Jordan Love, once he's settled in, and yeah, he's taking more chances and he's almost making more mistakes. Last year he went that long streak with not a lot of picks. I kind of wonder if he was coached into taking more chances this year. I don't know if that's part of his development, and maybe it gets a little bit better, but like I thought the protection was really good. And 2 moments in the game where the Cards were on the ropes, 4th and 2, you saw the throw over the middle that was like in between 5 guys. That's a big one. It's 14-0 at that point. They just decided to kick the doors. And I think they know what we know about Arizona is if you get Arizona down, especially when they lose Marvin Harrison Jr. to a concussion, they are not good at playing from behind. As much as you think a team that can spread it out and throw it around the yard would be, Kyler presses. They don't protect well up front. The Packers didn't have a single sack, which continues to be a problem for that front, but the front they made their presence felt early. Kenny Clark was in the backfield like the guys, and they'll get Devontae Wyatt back. But the shots, man, the 4th and 2, and then, right out of the half, I think you get 2-man, and you hit Watson for the touchdown. And so no, actually, I don't know what coverage that was, but it was Watson out of the half, and they go for the jugular. That's the attitude they have in Romeo Doubs. Good for him, dude. I'm really happy for him. Last week I said,
the
hey,
team was too. You could tell.
That's the thing that watching his press conference last week. I've been on the thing like, hey, man, and I hope you could read my tone. I'm a fan of this kid, and so it comes from a place of like, I think you can be great, dude. Like, please don't let the last month of the season ruin the rest of your season, because that would be good for nobody. And, sometimes you got to realize that things are bigger than you, especially on a good team. And we've all been there. For him to come back, watching him on the sideline, watching Christian Watson before the game kind of pumping him up, like hitting him in the shoulder pads, like pounding his chest, like giving him a little pep talk. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if it is something that he had going on mentally. Like when I saw him at the locker fielding questions about this last week, I felt for him. I don't know what happened. It might be his fault, but the deep breaths that this kid was taking, I saw a guy who was kind of like spiraling. And the thing you forget about NFL players is we're just like you. Everybody in this chat's going through something, and I think a lot of times the pressure is invisible. Like there's so much pressure. We see it on Sunday and you think, how do these guys make these plays under so much pressure? The pressure is immense all week long. And some guys are going through something. And, like, I think sometimes you look at an NFL player, you're like, you're making so much money. How could you be fucking... But I can tell you, as a guy who made a lot of money, it doesn't fix everything, and you are a human being, and sometimes you have a bad week. Sometimes you have a bad 10 days. Sometimes something happens in your personal life. Sometimes you're just not thinking straight, and you're not doing what I said earlier, which is like, see the big picture. Whatever happened, it was great to see the guy come back out and make 2 absolutely beautiful plays at the pylon.
Sometimes you just might need 2 practices off, man.
Yeah, I guess so.
Get right.
But that's what he brings you. The body control in the first touchdown. The second one, Jordan Love just saying, hey, fuck it. He's down there somewhere. Like,
I love that.
And with Wicks leaving with a shoulder injury, and I don't know how serious that is, like, we're going to need you, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so I think this was a big step in the right direction, and it's going to be a tough team to beat at home. And Arizona looks shell-shocked. Arizona, like, on the sideline, the shot of Kyler Murray going into the half, to me, looked like a guy who just lost the game. And you're still in the game. So look out for whatever that bad juju is in Arizona, that it didn't just seem like, hey, we didn't play well today. Like, some of the body language on that team was not great. And I want to say this. Nixon had a punch out early on a 3rd down.
Mm-hmm.
That was big because you were trying to play the game on your terms. He also had a big return. He's been great in the return game. Evan Williams has been big for them. Like I said, Jair came back. I think Cooper is a hidden reason why this defense is better this year. Yeah, I don't want to oversimplify it, but when you lost Devondre Campbell, I've been saying for a year or 2 now that the guy's lost a step. He's a little bit slower. He's a little bit older. If you ever want to find a matchup in the pass game on a guy, and also just the finishing of plays in the backfield, like Cooper is the guy that when he's the free runner, you're going to get the guy down. And he plays well in space. He's quick. He'll knife in there. I like Cooper a lot, and he's a good ad blitzer. And when you've got a group that's not getting home, but I think are good rushers, sometimes it's just a matter of bringing 5. And so I really like the addition of Cooper. That's helped this group a lot.
And also, you didn't talk about, even though they don't have a lot of sacks, they do have 17 takeaways after 6 games. And last year, they had a total of 18 takeaways the entire season.
That's big, man. Yeah, and McKinney's been a big part of that.
Yeah, Grow used to
But Hafley's been a big part of that.
Used to tell us about that. Your winning percentages exponentially go up when you can find a way to get 1 takeaway. But if you can find a way to get 2 takeaway, your offense, 2 extra possessions in a game, it puts your winning percentage.
Remember what you just said in a couple minutes. Okay, bookmark that because it's going to come up again.
Can I ask real fast? Yeah. So a team like the Cardinals, you're in Arizona, it's warm year-round, you play in a dome. Is there something to be said, like the fall, weather changes, you start in September and games are usually pretty warm, and then the first game that you play outside on the road.
Once I saw that
shitty weather, is that something to be said? That,
I think there's something to be said for certain teams, but I think sometimes
like the first game you have to get through, and then you're like, okay, we're
maybe so. You know? But I also think it's just you go on the road and you're playing this team that's just physical, and they can get explosives on you, and the rushers. They didn't have a single sack, but Kenny Clark made his presence felt. You know, those guys on the edge, they're back there hunting. I mean, like, Rashawn Gary hasn't had a sack since Jesus was a baby. But that doesn't mean the guy's not a guy that when you prepare for him, you're like, shit, I got to block this big son of a gun. Like, I think sacks come in bunches, right? And you and I both know that. We'd be slumping at different times, and all of a sudden, as a unit or an individual, you get one, and then they just roll in. So hopefully that's the case for Green Bay. Like I said, they played some good offensive lines. Yesterday, they played a guy who kind of slows your rush down a little bit. We'll see what happens as the year goes on. But it's nice to get Jair back because at least the fractions of time are going to be in your favor. That makes a big difference. When your number 1 corner's down, somebody of that caliber.
Rush and cover.
Rush and coverage.